Hello and welcome to a technical tour of Build 829. By technical tour, I definitely mean technical. What I want to do here is talk about some of the new features for dynamic form field creation so that you can see how you can start using some of these features to incorporate them into your own form. So to start off then, RackForms has long had the ability, for about a year and a half now, to create dynamic form fields based on a database query. In other words, if I add a query module to my page, as I'll do right here, and if I tweak the select statement to be a little bit more specific, let's just say we want name, age, and email, and then let me limit the result to one row. So long as I uncheck run in page top and check create dynamic form elements, RackForms will automatically query the database and build a beautiful form based on the columns and the values within those columns, right? So I have this FB demo table. Here is a column called name, and here was the value that was included in it. So we've long since had the ability to do that. Here's one of our new features. Now, instead of pre-populating those form fields, I can say do not pre-populate them, right? So I can publish this, and I now have name, age, and email as empty fields. Now that alone is not very useful, which is why we added the next feature. So now what I can do is I can select this field or just the page that it's on. I go to the SQL Plus Automator. I can put in FB Demo as my table name. And now when I use the SQL Plus Insert or Update Item buttons right here, RackForms is automatically going to go in and it's going to query this query item, and it's going to see that I'm returning these columns, and it's automatically going to create the insert statement for us. Now I should be clear here. We've long since had the ability to do this, that is, query dynamic form elements and then write them to the database. Now we're simply automating the process of creating the SQL. Super, super awesome, huge time saver. Of course, just to show you what this looks like then, if I were to publish this form, I could put in like Steve Smith, age 78, sample@sample.com. And when I submit this form through now, you'll notice that our database gets this as a new record in it. So super, super nice. Here's another new feature. Let's say instead of an insert statement, I want to do an update. Now you recall that by default, the default behavior of our query item is to actually pre-populate the form fields, right? I actually had to say do not pre-populate. So if I leave this at pre-populate and now change my query to actually include a primary key right here, so ID is a primary key right here. So long as I have a primary key and so long as I have this set to pre-populate, now when I actually go and run the SQL Plus Automator, notice I'm not going to change anything. I'm still going to write to FB Demo, but now when I hit SQL Plus Insert Item, RackForms is actually smart enough to see that PK and actually see that use the pre-population, and now it's actually going to create an update statement for us, right? It knows that we're pre-populating form fields, so we want to update something. And so you can see it's written this update statement for us, and sure enough, if I change Joe Smith, let's say to Joe Smith without the third, make him a year older, now when I hit submit, we've actually updated that existing row in the database. Super, super awesome. Now I should say that this ability to create a form that updates a database is something that RackForms has also long had the ability to do with the Builder page type. And if you're going to be doing a lot of this type work, I'd probably say the Builder is a little bit easier. However, we're trying to make all methods just as simple. And so that's why we've added these features, is to give you multiple ways of handling that task. Maybe you don't want to use a Builder form. Maybe you're more comfortable in the form page type. And so now you can very easily build these update forms with that. Finally, the last feature I wanted to really quickly take a look at is another feature that supports dynamic field creation and submission. So we now have a new field under our page properties called custom page process code. What this basically means is that any code we write in here will go into the process page for this form. Now, if you're not familiar with the system, whenever I click submit to a form page in RackForms, it actually goes to a process page where it saves the form field elements, does validation, and then it redirects to one of these two pages. If we failed validation, let's say we had a file upload and the file size was too big, we'll simply go to this page, which in this case just defaults to the same page we were on. Or if we've passed validation, we'd go to the on success page. In this case, page 1 is our confirmation page. Well, now we can actually loop code into that process, such as die, and now when I go to publish my form, I'm simply going to die on page 0 process. Now here's why that's really cool. It used to be that we didn't have direct access to get or post fields from a form submission, right? We didn't have access to process.php. We only had access to on fail or on success. The problem is that you won't get post or get variables on these 2 pages. Only this guy gets it. Well, no longer. Now I can simply write something like echo, and then I can use p for post, and then name, because I know that's the name of one of the fields I'm creating dynamically. And now, when I submit, I'm going to get Joe Smith. This is the direct post variable from page 1 of this form. That is awesome because it allows us to create dynamic form fields to our heart's content on a form page and then process those in the custom page process code block. Super, super powerful. So that is a quick look at Build 829. Of course, if you have questions about any of the features that you've seen, please let us know at info@rackforms.com, and happy form building.